Out of all the serial killers in the world, you got people like Jack the Ripper, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, the Zodiac Killer, and the list goes on. They say in the United States, there have been more than 3,000 serial killers. So there's one serial killer I've never heard of. Have you ever heard of him? They say he was America's very first serial killer. His name is Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, or H.H. Holmes for short, aka the White City Devil. Some people called him Dr. Death. H.H. Holmes was born as Herman Webster Mudgett on May 16, 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. So information about his early life is super sketchy, and there's very little to go off of. They say he was a master manipulator. He was highly intelligent and also a pathological liar. Now, we do know he was a troubled individual, but it's hard to paint a picture on his life. They say he was born from a family of settlers. His religious background was Methodist, and he was one of 4 siblings. They say when he was a kid, he was extremely smart, but something was off. He was a normal kid, but he showed many signs of abnormal behavior. He had a deep fascination with medicine and surgery, and he would trap animals and perform surgery on them, killing them in the process. Throughout school, they say Holmes was a very good student who was really interested in medicine, which led him to attend the University of Michigan Department of Medicine and Surgery, where he graduated in 1884. There were rumors that when he was in school, he was involved with scams involving corpses, where he would take out an insurance policy on fictitious people. Then he would present the bodies like they were the actual people and would collect the insurance money. So in 1886, Holmes moved to Chicago, where he settled in, and he ended up getting a job at a drugstore in Inglewood from his vast medical knowledge. The drugstore was owned by a couple, Dr. E.S. Holton and his wife. They say Dr. Holton was not well, and his wife had to run the store. And this is how H.H. Holmes got the job, because of his vast medical background. So when Mr. Holton passed away, Holmes managed to buy the drugstore from Mrs. Holton, and they say that she agreed for him to make payments on the store over time. But something mysteriously happened after Holmes agreed to purchase the drugstore. She seemed to disappear without a trace. Rumors suggest that Holmes killed her, although no evidence have been found to substantiate this claim. Holmes said that she moved to California, but no one heard from Mrs. Holton ever again. H.H. Holmes was super successful with the drugstore, and he made a lot of money. So he took that income from the store and he bought an empty lot across the street and turned it into a multi-purpose building with a new and larger drugstore and other things. This building would later become known as the Murder Castle. So in 1887, Holmes signed paperwork for the lot, and he started construction, and he built a 3-story block long structure. He designed it himself to serve multiple purposes, and it was very complex. The building had a basement, a ground floor with space for retail, and on the upper floors, he had his very own apartment and a maze of other rooms. But what made this building truly chilling were its sinister features that were built on the top floors. He designed this building specifically for murder and the disposal of bodies. He built hidden rooms and secret passages and hallways that weren't listed on any of the blueprints. He also built false floors and trap doors, allowing him to move like a ghost unseen and hide and dispose of bodies without any detection. Some rooms were fitted to be airtight and were soundproof, so nobody could hear the murderous cries, I guess. A few rooms were connected with gas lines that Holmes could control, and he would send poisonous gas to asphyxiate his victims. He also had a chute installed that went to the basement that he would grease up where he could quickly dump the bodies on the sly. And inside the basement was where he would dispose of the bodies. He built a kiln where he would cremate the bodies. He also had a table for the bodies where he would dissect his victims with precision surgical tools, and he would strip the skeletons out of the bodies and sell them to medical schools. And they say he made a lot of money doing that. Now you're probably asking, how did he get the workers to build this house of horrors? So in order to maintain the building's secrecy and prevent workers from understanding the true purpose of the building, he would hire and fire construction crews frequently so they wouldn't understand the layout of the building. So he continued doing that, and then he ended up finishing that building in 1892. And this was when all the horrors took place in the walls of his castle. So in 1893, they had a world fair called the World's Columbian Exposition, and Holmes would rent out rooms to visitors, and many of these visitors were never seen again. They say he killed more than 200 people. They're not sure on the exact numbers, and he only confessed to 27 murders and only 9 were confirmed. Many of his victims were young women who were lured into the castle for various reasons. Some of the victims were tenants, some of them were employees, and a lot of the women were romantically involved with Holmes. They say he had several wives at the same time, and none of them knew about each other. So his killings inside the hotel were varied because of all the unique features of that castle. He locked some of them in soundproof rooms and gassed them. He also had a bank vault near his office where he would suffocate them as well. He would also lock victims in secret rooms and leave them to die of hunger and thirst. And once they died, this is when he would dispose of the body with the chute he built, and when they got down to the basement, he would dissect them, strip their bones, and burn their bodies. And at the same time, he was still involved with insurance scams. And the insurance company started catching on, and they started investigating the fraudulent claims, and he was involved with a man named Benjamin Pitzel. Holmes killed Pitzel and killed 3 of 5 of Pitzel's children, and this led to his arrest in 1894 and the discovery of the horrific crimes that he committed. The Hearst newspaper paid Holmes $7,500 for him to tell his story in a series of newspaper articles where he confessed to killing 27 people in Chicago, and the Chicago police investigated the castle, and using a missing persons list and neighbors' testimonies, they estimate the body count to be closer to 230. H.H. Holmes was sentenced to death by hanging, and they allowed him a final wish. His last wish was, when he was put inside his coffin, to have it filled with cement before being nailed shut, and he wanted to be buried in a 10-foot grave with 2 feet of sand and concrete poured in before it was covered with dirt. And they allowed this request. And on May 7, 1896, he was hanged in Moyamensing Prison in Philadelphia. And the reason for his last wish was because he wanted to guarantee that no one would dissect his corpse the way he had done to so many others. So thank you for watching another episode of Wildshh. If you have any requests, leave them in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon.